going on, guys? I'm going to show you the extraction of ProSoft and the reapply of ProSoft. So I might be kind of quiet during this video because I'm going to be kind of focusing on what I'm doing, and my kids are asleep in the next room, so I'm going to try to be quiet, okay? But I've got these this pedicure, manicure kit thing. Got all these extra little tools in here. If I had trouble getting this out by just using my fingers, I'm gonna use some of this. So it's said to take it out to heat up some really hot water, get it warm, because that'll soften it up a little bit. So I'm gonna run some hot water, and I'll be right back once I get heated up. Okay, guys, I can already tell from running the really hot water on it that it's already starting to peel out a little bit. Right back here, it got real loose. So I'm gonna start peeling. And I had already kind of pulled up on this a little bit, but it's looks like it's gonna come out just fine. Let's see if I can get it all out in one big piece. But I was running the water as hot as I could get it under the sink. I'm not boiling the water, nothing like that. I'm just getting as hot as I can coming out of the tap. And I'm trying to get the thickest parts out first, and then I'm assuming the thinner parts I'll have to kind of scrape off a little bit because they are awfully thin at the palette. But as you can watch and see, this is going to peel off. And it's real warm, it's real soft when it's real hot. That's actually going to come out all as one piece. Wow. So it comes out perfectly fine. There's absolutely nothing wrong with using ProSoft, and the Russell Klein Ultra Thin Dentures, it stays perfectly fine. And it's even still dry underneath the liner, which is kind of funny. It's wet over here because I put my finger there, but over here, as you can tell, it totally seals everything. That's kind of cool. Once it heats up really good, it just kind of softens up, and kind of cool. So that's the uppers. Now we're gonna do the lowers. Same thing, and heat them up. Okay, let's see how well this comes out. It's a little bit harder to get out, but that's okay, it's coming out. Try not to pull too hard because I want it to come out as one piece. Go back from this side. Yeah, it's gonna come out just fine. And look at that. Nice and clean, all out. Pretty cool. So that stuff works really good. And it's all, there's not even any particles left behind or nothing. It's all in there. That's the lower. So yeah. Alright, well, I'm going to watch these, degrease them and stuff, make sure they're nice and clean. I'll probably use some dish soap or something. I'm going to go do that really quick, and I'll be back for the reapply of ProSoft. Okay guys, so I got these all cleaned up with some dish soap. Degreased them up really good. I'm just gonna let them dry for a few extra minutes. I patted them down really good with a, we'll do this a little bit more. Patted them down really good with a towel, clean towel, and I'm just letting them sit for a few extra minutes, make sure they're really good and dry. That is something you really need to be aware of when you're using this. You don't want to put it on a set of wet dentures, it won't stick right. So make sure they are degreased and they are perfectly dry, completely dry. So I'm gonna give these a couple more minutes. I'm gonna read over a couple of the instructions. First thing, it says clean and dry denture thoroughly. I already said that. It's talking about pouring the liquid into a little container, which you get 2 of these in one application, or one box of ProSoft. You get 2 of these. So for the upper, for the lower, this is powder. You also get 2 of these. for the upper and the lower. These are little containers with liquid. Don't ask me what, the ingredients are, what all is in them. I'm not 100% sure. But you get 2 of those to the side. You basically pour this in here, and then you stir it with a little stick that they give you. They supply these in it'll either be plastic or wood. I got the wood ones. But you stir it up really good, and it says 10 seconds. Stir thoroughly for 10 seconds. That's at least 10 seconds. It says, let's see, allow mixture to gel until it becomes a consistency of honey. Check consistency with stick every 10 seconds or so. So, you're gonna have to make a judgment call on how thick you want it to be when you are taking the mold in your mouth. When you're putting this, denture back in, you're gonna have to make a judgment call on that one. You don't want it to be too thin that it all runs out of the denture, when you put it in, but you don't want it to be too stiff or too firm, because otherwise, you're not going to get a good impression. So you want to kind of try to make that judgment yourself. When I did it the first time, I just kept stirring it, kept checking it, until it was a little, thicker than honey. I mean, honey to a little bit thicker, just a little bit. And I popped that in as quick as I could, made sure it was all lined up real good and straight. And then 3 minutes. 3 minutes, you hold it in your mouth. Okay. When that 3 minutes is up, you take it and you take the denture out and you put it in a container of cold water. The cold water will help set it. Will help set the ProSoft and hold that shape. You then leave it in there. I think it says. Let's see what it says. Let's see. For another 3 minutes. So, you're at 6 minutes total. So for another 3 minutes, you put it in cold water, and then you trim the excess material off with a sharp knife. Now, after I let it sit in the cold water for 3 minutes, I put it back in my mouth to make sure it was good and had that impression in there really good. Held it in there for a little bit longer. Put it back in the cold water. And I left it in the cold water for about 20 minutes. 20 minutes to a half an hour. I don't know if that helped me out. I don't know if you got to do that. It doesn't say you have to do that. I just did it, to make sure that this stuff was set up really good. I didn't want it to be, squishy or soft or anything like that. I mean, it's squishy and soft anyway, but I didn't want it to be like gooey still, So I just made sure. So okay, well, I think these are about dried up enough. I'm going to do the upper first, obviously. I want to make sure that's lined up, and then I'll do the bottom, the lower, and basically it says to do one at a time, okay? Now, I did one at a time last time, and I felt like maybe my bite was slightly off, just a little bit. It wasn't anything to cause me problems or anything like that. You couldn't even tell from looking at it, but I just felt different. Maybe it was just having it in there. I don't know. But this time I'm going to do the top, get it set, leave it in the cold water for 3 minutes and everything. Put it back in. When I put it back in, that's when I'll do the bottom. And then when I put this in my mouth with all of the ProSoft in it, I'll bite down with this. Before, I just used my fingers to hold this down. And I felt like maybe this was not lined up perfectly. And so that's maybe why my bite was off just a little bit. I'm going to do that. Hold on, let me get some cold water here. Now, I try to get it as cold as I possibly can. And by the way, guys, in my experience with this stuff, if you get it on your counter or something like that, if it dribbles, because you're going to have a mess, it's a little bit messy. But if it dribbles a little bit, don't worry about it. Don't freak out and try to wipe it up. Let it sit. It'll peel right off. It peels right off. In my experience anyway. On my countertop here, it dribbled all over the counter, and I waited till it hardened up, and I just rolled it off, just peeled it off. plenty of cold water here. We'll put that, well, let's see, we'll put that right here, okay? Then, move this stuff out of the way. You want to have your entire area set up before you start doing this, because you don't want to take too much time on this. If you do, you run the risk of it being too stiff when you put it in your mouth. You want to be able to act quick if you have to. So, I'm going to have everything all set up. And I shouldn't be smelling that directly, but it's not bad. Like, the smell of this stuff is not bad. It's the taste that's a little hard to get used to. But, okay, let's see if I can get this open here. There we go. Okay, this is the stuff that smells more harsher. So I ain't gonna smell that stuff. It smells like nail polish remover or something. Get my stick ready. And it looks like I got a little bit of water in my denture, so I'm gonna wait for a few seconds before I start mixing that stuff. Make sure this is dried up really good. And there's a few drops in there, and I don't want to go sticking it in there on a damp, even a damp or moist denture. I just don't want to run the risk of be wasting this stuff. It'd just be wasting it at that point. So it feels pretty dry now. It was just a few drops. So, all right, I'm gonna pour this stuff in and start mixing. I'll be pretty quiet during this part because I want to kind of focus. A little bit of it kind of overflowed a little bit. That's okay. Now, it's going to be really runny at first, guys. Like, really runny. And you're going to be like, what? Don't go dumping it right in your denture right away. See how runny that is? You want to let it set up really good. Take your time. See how it's starting to get thicker? Still not quite thick enough, though. Now it's starting to get thicker. Now it's starting to get more of the consistency that I like. So I'm probably going to get ready to start dumping it in my denture here in just a second. My denture up there. Turn this around so you can see how I dump it in there. Okay, here we go. Put it all over the palette first. And most of it will run off of the palette. That's okay. Like I said, guys, you're going to get this on your countertop. At least I do. I get it all over. This stuff will be everywhere by the time you're done with it. Okay, so I like to lean it forward a little bit to make sure the trough is nice and full, and I spread it. I spread it kind of like peanut butter up there. Get it nice and thick up top. So that way it'll all be on the palette for me. Okay. Make sure it's nice and evenly spread out. So that's what I got. Here we go. Okay. Get it in that cold water. Ugh. Yeah, that stuff's got a bad taste, guys. I mean, it's not overwhelmingly like awful, but it's just kind of like eek. So get these in there, let them sit for 3 minutes in the cold water. Also, sorry, I'm spitting. It's the squeeze out or the runoff from the back of the palette and behind, like, if this were my upper, like this part, it runs off the back a little bit, and it, like, you know, you really don't want to swallow this stuff. Yeah, that goes without saying. You just really don't want to swallow it. So, I'm making sure I'm spitting a lot of stuff out because you really can't feel it in there. Like it blends in with your natural, tissue in your mouth anyway. So you really don't want to swallow it. So I'm gonna do the bottom. It's exactly the same as the top, except obviously you don't have a palate. It's the same thing. You just pour it in here. So I'm not gonna show that part of it. My video is already running pretty long as it is, but I will show you guys the results of this after I do it. So I'll be right back. Okay guys, so I got the lower done. It's just sitting in the cold water now for 3 minutes. I went ahead and threw my upper back in there too. I had it in while I did my lower. And of course when you do your lower, if you're like me and you like to go overboard with everything, both of these containers that you get with the powder and the liquid are meant for, they technically give you enough to do 2 whole uppers. That's what's in there. I mean, I got the stuff stuck to my lips now, but so for a smaller lower like I got, it just goes everywhere if you put it all in there, and that's what I do. It's messy, and it gets everywhere, but it fills all the empty spaces up really, really well. So throw these away, and those containers and stuff are just trash when you're done. There's nothing. You just throw them away. While these are cooling down, I guess I can show you what's on my counter. So this is what I cut off of the upper. I already trimmed it up because I couldn't put it back in my mouth like that. Just that little dribble. But this is what I'm talking about when it dribbles on the countertop like that. Now, hold on, I got some on my cheek here. Basically, now that it's hardened up enough, it's not hard, but it's still sticky. It's kind of tacky. But you just kind of peel it with your finger and it'll peel right off. It's that easy. So you can do that if it gets on your countertop. It's perfectly fine to just pick it off and it comes right off. It's meant to. It's meant to be a temporary reliner. That's what it's for. So it's going to come off that stuff fairly easy if you pick at it. It's not meant to stay on there for forever. This is ProSoft. This isn't. I think PermaSoft is the more permanent version of this. It's a little harder too, from what I hear. And when I get to the point where I can, where I'm not shrinking all the time, maybe I'll try that next. But I'll take my upper out and show it to you. Sorry, it's kind of gross. But you get some runoff. You get a little over, like right there on the palate, right there. I'm just take these little scissors, and I'm just gonna kind of follow along with the palate line and snip it as I go. Now my lower, it's been in there almost 3 minutes by now. So take it out if I can get it. I'll show you how much this thing overflows. I mean, when you use all that stuff, it goes everywhere. You can see it filled up the whole center part of that under your tongue, and it just did everything. It even got up on the teeth and stuff. So you kind of have to come in here real nice and easy and just pick that off, and you can see it comes right off. It's not a problem at all. You just use your finger and it peels right off. And if it still feels kind of tacky and so, that's okay. I don't push on the inside of the denture very hard for a little while until I'm sure it's set up good. So I try to avoid, poking the inside of the denture and stuff until after I'm sure it's set up, because it is still kind of soft. That's why I put it back into the cold water for another like 30 minutes after I'm done with them, just to make sure they're set. And you just kind of have to take your time doing this. But as you can see, it comes off just fine. A little irritating if you're not used to, if you're used to like denture fit or something that comes in the pre-packaged, dispenser and everything. That's nice. That's nice to have, because you don't have to mix anything. It's all right there, and that's what you're paying for. And the different material, whatever it is that they use. I heard that there's no taste or smell with it. That would be nice. But, you know, when you need something, you need something, and this stuff works great. I love it. So, yeah, that's all I wanted to show you guys. So, I want to finish trimming these up and throw them back in the water. That's it. So, as always, guys, stay safe, be strong, feel alive. Have a good one, guys.